And here we are. We are absolutely live. I'm hoping people can see me here. Yes, sir. Yes, it's all absolutely. We're live. What episode is this? I don't know. I'm losing count. We've been in lockdown for so long now. This is series 2, episode 7, I think. I don't know. It's become like a regular Friday night thing, but it takes an awful lot to arrange these things, folks. I tell you, and get everything sorted. But hey ho, we're here. We're smiling, we're back and we're happy, and we're hoping you're all going to enjoy tonight because it's going to be a wonderful evening having a very candid and fun chat with Sir Lee Pearson. Of all people, Sir Lee Pearson, I couldn't believe he actually agreed to come on the show with me. It's bound to be some trouble, but hey ho, he's listening to me right now, probably laughing because I've got him turned down, but we're going to have a fab evening with him. Anyway, but housekeeping, please share this video. If you want people to also enjoy what we do with our question chat show, the only way we can spread the word is by sharing it. So if you know how to do a watch party, make it so. Make it happen. Share the link in groups. Share the link in your page if you have a page. Anything like that, just do that now so that people get the opportunity to watch, because we just don't want people to miss out. Hopefully what we're doing is good. People are getting something from it. We've got some really good feedback, so let's share the love. Okay, so I've got to also say we don't have sponsors because we don't share money, but I have a really good friend who has been importing wine from Spain, and most of you all know this is the Shores Equestrian. Now, I didn't know Shores Iberian actually comes from Shores Equestrian, which is Piqueur and Escudron and all that. I didn't know that, but anyway, they are bringing in the most amazing wines that we are loving, and they've given us some in order to say, hey, and do you know what? They are literally the best wines in the world. So look at the Caballo Oscuro range, please, for me, because I've got a bottle of the white open here tonight, and that will only last this evening, I can tell you, because it is my favourite wine in the world. And I'm not just saying that, it literally is. So I want to share the love with that as well. Hey-ho. Right, Horse World. We have been raising money for Horse World, as you know, throughout the series, and we are still doing so tonight. So we don't make any money from this. We don't pay our guests any money for this. You guys don't have to pay to watch this. It's all free, it's all lovely, and it's all genuine. However, if you could possibly share the love by donating to Horse World, it would really help. Now, last week, 2 weeks ago on the party, we started a raffle, and the aim was to raise £500. And we have! We've raised £500. And so I sent the £500 to them today, but we haven't called the raffle yet. And I know there's some people eagerly waiting. It's simply because I've got to go through every donation, put names into a database, and then do a random number generator with Kelly to check it's all impartial. But we will be posting the results of that. So there's some really good prizes that will be won, and we'll do it as soon as possible. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. And thank you so much for helping us reach the £500 target for that night. However, we should really have a £500 target every night, because these guys really need it. You've seen the story in the news this week about the riding stables in London, needed £1 million just to keep going. It's a similar story with Horse World. They really need as much as possible. I've got a statement they sent me to read out to thank us all. So, as I'm sure you're only too well aware, this time of year is any equestrian's least favourite. Magnify that by approximately 100 as our teams do their best to battle with the elements and continue to take excellent care of the whole herd. We're still reeling from the impact of the pandemic is having on our fundraising and the inevitable extra drain on resources which winter brings. Plus, we're braced for a predictive surge in rescue cases as the weather takes its toll and the economic impact of COVID-19 is felt by horse owners all over the country. So, having this boost of £500 from you and your Equidance audience really is going to bring a big ray of sunshine to us all. So our continued support is very appreciated with Horse World, and we really, really want to continue that, not just through lockdown, as we did before, and we will do beyond. So here's a screen for you. This is all you need to do. You can text Horse World to 70085. That's Horse World to 70085. That you can donate £3, but you can text that as many times as you want. So you don't have to do it once. It's Horse World to 70085. Thank you. We really, really appreciate that. There's another thing I'd like to touch on before our interview this evening. This week, again, tragic news within the equestrian world, that Matthew Wright, untimely death of Matthew Wright, and he was co-founder, of course, of Equestrian Minds, so Riders Minds, wonderful charity, and it's devastated a lot of people. I've had a lot of conversations this week, and I'm not going to go into depth. I'm not going to look at the reasons why right now, and I'm not going to break it apart and tear it apart and look into it, because his family obviously are really suffering and have requested privacy. However, what I would like to say is I've also noticed this week there's a lot of bitterness online. And I know it's hard for everyone right now, and people are getting stir crazy, and it's not the easiest of times to be a human in general, but there's no need to take it out on people online. There's never an excuse for trolling or bullying or bitterness online. You just need to take a step back and take a breath before you start lashing out at people, because you don't know how that's going to be received at the other end. You don't know how that person's feeling at the other end. So please be kind and stay safe online. We could really do without these horrible stories in a time when we're all finding it hard to cope. So thank you for that. Right, on to brighter things. We have the most amazing guest tonight, and in order to introduce him, we've put together a little introductory video. It's a bit of a "This Is Your Life" from the most amazing individual you could possibly imagine. He's gone out there and won 11 Olympic gold medals, and so much more than that. We're going to have a great chat to him, but first of all, let's introduce Sir Lee Pearson. So, ladies and gentlemen, here he is in person, Sir Lee Pearson CBE, your official title. What do I call you?
Just Lee.
Just
Just
Lee.
Lee.
I know, because I think Surly sounds a bit funny because it sounds like surly. You're a bit surly.
Surly. And a few of my friends do take the mickey and do say surly very quickly like that, as if I'm a surly character, which I'm really not.
I'm just checking your audio level. Hopefully, everyone can hear you okay. If you can't, then just make a comment and we'll see that. But that's all good, mate. How you doing? How you coping?
Yeah, I feel really lucky that I live at home with the horses. Although a lot of hacking and riding in the fields when it's dry. I've got planning eventually for an outdoor arena, so that's going to be built later this year. Yeah, just feel really lucky to have been able to spend time with the animals and the horses, to be honest. But all good, other than my COVID haircut, which might shock a few people, because when we chatted a few minutes ago, you were like, "Where's the quiff? Where's the quiff?"
Yeah, where's that beautiful combed over quiff?
Well, I got a bit bored, and I thought I'll shave the. And I mentioned to my foster son that I may shave it off, and then I changed my mind and goes, "No, well, let's just shave the sides." And then he shaved the back that horrifically that it all had to go. So never ask your son to shave the back of your head.
Now I like this. You mentioned your son because this is quite topical because it's a fairly recent enlightenment in your life, isn't it?
Yeah,
So tell me,
definitely.
we were just chatting about this, and I was absolutely intrigued because, of course, I've got a son a similar age. How did this all come about? This is brilliant news.
Well, I've always thought about and wanted to foster, but it's never for years. Like I look back at my computer, and 10 years ago, I was looking into it, and it just never seemed the right time, to be honest. And then last February, a relationship that I was in came to an end after about 4.5 years, and I must have really because online media, Facebook kept coming up with the telephone number for fostering and the email. So I contacted the local authority, thinking an individual gay disabled man probably doesn't have a chance. But you know what? That's never really stopped me taking life by the horns, grabbing life by the horns, and just thinking I am the same as everybody else. I'm the most abnormal, normal person that I know.
Yeah.
Normal side of me is very normal, and for me, overtakes the abnormal. But I know when you see me swinging along on my crutches, and even the successes, I suppose, makes you a little bit abnormal, and the knighthood, and strange things like that. But I just thought I'm quite normal. They came out to do an initial assessment, and then I got assessed and trained throughout summer, basically. So with lockdown number one, as well as riding and enjoying the great weather that we had, I was training to be a foster dad, and then I became a foster dad in June. And then that ended in September, and then my current foster son moved in September, and yeah, it kind of completes my life. To be honest, it's my family.
This is really positive news at a time where we all really need positive news. That is wonderful. Really excites me. Well done, mate. So how's that panning out?
I'm learning more about football than I ever dreamed I would know about. I've slated football before now, overpriced actors, um, and Jensen would agree that is the case. But he's very passionate about football, and I'm coming slightly intrigued now. And when he's not outside playing football, he's on FIFA upstairs playing football on his Xbox. I love it. I love the school run. That was very entertaining. Then it just gets irritated with terrible drivers,
Oh,
to be honest,
yes. Yes.
that get in the way. But no, I love the school run, and I love dropping him off, and then I've got like 5 hours to do what I want to do, which is when I get the horses exercise. And yeah, just it was a situation, a diversion in my life that I never really thought would happen. But you are just assessed as an individual on your merits, and the local authority would love me just to promote that it isn't for heterosexual middle-aged couples. It is literally for everybody. You can foster from 18 years and above, and if you have a lot of assessments, DBS checks, obviously, but they interview 6 of your family at least have to do statements, actually, and they can interview all ex-partners, and very intrigued on the way that what your upbringing was like, because often you're a reflection of your parents for good and bad, and And I was really lucky that I had a wonderful childhood, really. Very strong parents, and but kind of black and white in there, in the way that they were being what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable. And people say to me, "Oh, Lee, that's a really nice thing for you to do," and I just say, "No, I am the lucky one. It's not a case of helping a young person by just giving them a home and security and love. Actually, he brings more to the table, really." But I wouldn't tell him that to his face all the time.
He's listening. He's listening.
He may be upstairs now, not playing FIFA. He may be listening.
Well,
I love it. I absolutely love it. They were concerned that I'd already got a profession to a degree, which is totally understandable.
Yeah.
But I said, like, I'm my own boss, and I can fit the horses in between school, and I have a great support group around me that can collect him at school if I was at a show or somewhere, squad training, for example. So it works.
Oh, fabulous. So also, if Tokyo happens this year, fingers crossed, are you allowed to take him with you?
I put him down as an owner of Breezer, who was along with my parents. Breezer's a homebred horse. Many moons ago, when para dressage was moving forward in leaps and bounds with training and horsepower and structure, I realised actually I'm a lorry driver's son and a psychiatric nurse's son. I can't afford the horsepower of where para dressage was heading. I mean, it's literally parallel prices to able-bodied top horses now, and we need kind of small tour level quality experienced horses, and I knew I couldn't afford that. So 12 years ago I bought a quality broodmare, and I bred my current Tokyo potential horse called Breezer, and then I have he's 10, and I have a sister who's 12, but she's like a Ferrari on drugs, basically. She's more of a Grand Prix horse in the making. She's doing most of the Grand Prix work now, and I took her to the World Equestrian Games, and for many different reasons I won't go into, she decided she didn't want to do dressage.
You were saying she's a bit too hot, isn't she, for what you need her for?
Yeah.
Super talented, but you need something a little bit more chilled.
Just a different. You don't need for example, you don't need a Grand Prix horse to do a prelim. Do you know what I mean? And you wouldn't do a Grand Prix with a prelim. And she's just like, she's just. I taught her Piaffe once under saddle, and now I have to stop her from doing it. And I taught her changes one day, and she was like, "Right, how many of these can I do on my own without me asking?" So you don't need that for a power test.
So is she going to be up for sale?
She may be in the future. Because she is very, very talented. Steph Erdley rode and trained her dad, Sandro Dancer, and Steph loved that horse before he went back to the owner. And I've let Steph sit on Styletta occasionally, and she's like, "Please, can I find some sponsors to buy at least a leg off her?"
She needs a really good ride, bless her. Steph really needs a good ride at the moment. Such a talented rider. Just haven't had the luck with the horses, and Pepsi's cool and everything, but she could do with a wicked ride. And of course, Steph.
So is anybody out there?
Yeah, come on, folks.
That wants to own Styletta for Steph to ride, they get on really, really well.
Yeah, Steph.
And I might even retain a leg.
Steph's a fantastic. Do you come across Steph on the mentor package with the para? Because she's working on that now.
Because that's a good thing. But I gave her my support, and I spoke to her a lot about it when she went for the application, when she went for the position, and I was really, really happy that she did. And I have spoken to her since about different things, but obviously she's on supporting the up and coming, and I'm old and kind of ready to be knocked off my pedestal at some point.
Oh, I don't think so. Not just yet. So what this year, obviously everything's kind of fallen apart. What have we missed out on? Because normally you do the Europeans, the World Cup, and then what have we missed out on so far?
Last year obviously should have been Tokyo, and generally I did mainly able-bodied competitions when we could. So I qualified for the winters, the last kind of spring, but they were held at the end of summer at Hartbury, and came reserve elementary silver champion, I think. And then we managed to do Kiso International in October within the rules and regs and laws of COVID. And that was Breezer's only second international. So we just need to get the horses out because Breeze is only 10 and he is very sensitive and sharp also. But he has really good basic paces. He has a great walk, which for my grade, being a grade 2 rider, has been important, and a good trot as well. But he hasn't got that much experience. And we've had a team meeting this afternoon, actually, because every day changes. So literally, as a sportsman, as a horse rider, as an athlete, you have to be adaptable, because really, and everybody knows that the horse, if you've listened to this, nothing goes to plan. So we just have to extend that mentality of being adaptable and adaptability and cope with the changes. Literally, I think right up to going into quarantine in July for us, if that happens, July, August, obviously the Olympics. And you call me an Olympian, by the way. You do know I'm a Paralympian, and the Olympian is a warm-up class, don't you?
I do know that. I knew you were going to say that as well.
It isn't a big competition anymore. We just call it a warm-up class ready for the Paralympians.
But I'm going to touch on this a little bit more later. But right, let's strip this back. Let's start from the beginning, because I'm intrigued. I honestly, I don't know this. So what got you into horses? What was the whole... How did it happen? What started it all off?
I'm sure everybody's heard this and bored of me saying it.
Well, no, because you've said it so many times, but I've never heard it. I know my listeners haven't. So just praise it for us.
Someone's bringing us chips in the background.
That's Mrs. Equidance, which has just turned up.
I couldn't. The standard joke is I couldn't pedal a bicycle. So my dad adjusted a bicycle and took all the pedals off, so I could roll a bicycle downhill. So my balance was already kind of reasonable. And but I couldn't pedal it back up the hill again. And a local farmer had a donkey, which I think my dad bought off him. So I joked that I had a hairy BMX bike called Sally the Donkey.
Oh, is this the one that wouldn't go right? So you had to go left in a full circle to go
left,
right.
3/4 of a circle. Yeah,
I know that.
So I was already kind of problem-solving awkward equine situations. But I'd always loved horses. I joke that I used to watch cowboy films, and I don't know if I was watching the cowboys or the horses, but probably both, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair.
I think sometimes perceived when you become professional that you lose that love of horses. I could now literally get in my car, get my Range Rover, drive to the field in the dark, put my spotlights on the horses, and just watch them all evening, because I don't have the physical capability to pamper them, to groom them and tack them up and up. But I still love them that much that I could go to the field and just watch them eating grass. My job is to produce them and train them and compete them. And I do love the production and the training more than the competing, believe it or not, which people also find interesting. But I just loved horses. So I begged my mum, who was petrified of being on a horse, because when she'll berate me for this age-wise, let's say she was 6 years old, she went to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and her older sister got on the donkeys, which know where to go and then turn around and come back again. And when my mum got back, the saddle had slipped underneath me. Mum was hanging underneath the donkey.
Oh no!
and that made her petrified of getting on a horse. So I'm very proud and kind of shocked, really, that my mum took me for riding lessons when I'd got a severe disability, and there wasn't. I don't know if there wasn't RDA then, but she didn't take me to an RDA centre. We just went to the local riding school nearby, Endon Riding School, and I just taught alongside everybody else. But I was absolutely petrified, and I was absolutely useless, because the non-horsey media want to kind of make a story out that kind of the birds sang and the clouds cleared and it was a beautiful day every time I rode. And I'm like, no. I used to fall off. I used to hang on with one hand. I was so frightened. And I was absolutely rubbish, but I still loved it. So mum and dad got me a pony, saved up for an amazing Christmas. We always had gifts in a pillowcase when we were kids.
We do the same.
That was the gift. But one particular Christmas, and my parents are very much working class, they'd saved up for my brother was into tractors and farming. He had a half-size tractor, and my other brother had a monkey bike, and I was pulling my presents out of the pillowcase. There wasn't a pony in a pillowcase, by the way, but I'd been going for about a year, and I was taking brushes out. I said, why have you got me horse brushes? Because when we go to the riding school, they're already groomed. They should always, so you could help a little bit. And then I pulled out a bridle. I was like, Mum, no, this is a bit silly now, because they've really got their own equipment. And then she said, you better step outside. And there was a horse trailer with a black shiny pony at the back.
Oh
Inside.
man, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah, I probably cried until I got on him, and he booked me straight off, and he did that most days that I was on him. So
you've broken quite a few bones as well, haven't you? You've fallen off that horse a few times.
yeah, I didn't break bones with Duke, and
Okay.
after a while, we realised that I was not competent enough to have my own pony. So when parents ask me about getting their child a pony, I'm like, no, go to riding school for as long as possible. It's a lot cheaper and a lot kind of safer, and a lot easier. And yeah, no, over the years, and my non-horsey friends go, apparently you're good, Lee, but why have you broken your back, your collarbone, your finger, your elbow exploded?
You took half the skin off your face or something.
Off my face, airlifted from the field with the Midlands Air Ambulance, which I'm now an ambassador, and I support them for obvious reasons.
That's brilliant.
A lot of us horsey people have used the air ambulance, so that's quite close to my heart. Yeah, but I've been professional now for 22 years. I started in 23 years. Started in 1998 professionally.
Right.
But I'd also ridden. I think it was about 24 then. I'd also ridden since I was 8 years old. You're bound to have kind of accidents because I didn't have horses trained for me. I trained my own horses, usually from youngsters. And I think nowadays, the majority of equine public have realised that we are on sport horses. We're not on safe therapy horses. They are proper quality sport horses, and everybody knows that sometimes they have a mind of their own and a different agenda.
Yes, this is horses. Everyone knows this about horses, I'm sure. You've all got your own stories to tell. Absolutely. But you went pro, and then didn't you kind of just, the impact was incredible. The trajectory was like, NASA hitting Mars, because you did World Cup one year and then Olympics the second year. Is that right?
Yeah, I have now I think about 30 odd gold medals in Europeans, Worlds and Paralympics. But I think I also kind of hit dressage running because I'd not had a dressage horse, and Blue Circle Boy I saw him as a foal, this big, massive golden horse that I had, and then I started training him and became part owner and then owner. And he was 17.2, bottle fed by a human, kept entire till he was 4. So you can imagine what his personality and attitude was. And I hit the able-bodied dressage scene, 17.2 and full of muscle. It was Hanoverian Welsh Cob was his kind of unofficial breeding.
Beautiful, yeah. Lovely.
And I trained him to Grand Prix. So I'd never done dressage before, and I just looked at videos. I was having a bit of help from Stephen Clark at the time, and he let me have a sit on one of his horses. And his horses, the horse I sat on, I did a few 3s, 2s. It didn't do piaffe. It would kill you if you tried to piaffe, but it did passage. So it was called Dickies. I used to sit on Stephen Clark's Dickie occasionally.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you. It's the truth. The horse was called Dickie. And that just gave me the...
with the right side of the watershed, don't you, Lee? Right, just, yeah.
Are we before or after?
No, we're before. It's not even, it's 8 o'clock.
Oh, we're going to have to talk for hours then, just so I can tell everybody all the stories of my life.
Don't worry. That may well happen just yet. Keep going. Sorry. So you used to sit on Dickie.
Stephen's horse.
Yeah.
And well, I only had 2 sits on, 2 or 3, and just I felt privileged that he allowed me to have a sit on one of his top horses. But that and he was going, "Oh, your field's great and your horsemanship," and I didn't know any of the dressage words; they were foreign to me. So he'd just say, "Oh, try and make it do this," and I'd have a go. So he was very forward thinking at letting a severely disabled man swing into his yard and have a go on one of his horses. He had given me a lesson down in London on one of my horses, so he had seen me ride. And then I trained Blue Circle Boy up to Grand Prix. That's on YouTube. If you just look up my name and Blue Circle Boy, you can see. And when I'm having a terrible riding day, I often put that video on in an evening to remind myself that I could ride once, and I still can just about ride.
Oh, damn, I wish I had that now. I'd love to have shown that.
Well, everybody can look it up and have a look.
No, please do, folks. I didn't find that earlier when I would have put it in the intro video if I'd have found that.
Yeah. And the irony is, I trained him to Grand Prix through naivety. I did a few Prix St. George's, but he wasn't perfect. So I didn't realise that no dressage horse is perfect. But because I was this young kind of naive, spunky guy, I was thinking like, oh, the horse, he has to be perfect. He's not going to go out at Grand Prix until he's perfect. Not realizing, because he was my first dressage horse, that that's not the case. And then I've tried to train Grand Prix horses since. I mean, Styletter's working nearly at Grand Prix now, and realised actually how difficult it is when you've got knowledge. Sometimes naivety is better, and get on with the job and get the job done.
Oh, that's a nice, I like that. That's a good way of looking at it. Naivety sometimes is better because you can overthink things, right?
Yeah.
So what happened after that? So yeah, you've done all that.
Well, I went, well,
what was the path, the professional path, and also I want to know about your journeys, how your team behind you, your sponsors and your helpers and everything. What's the deal there? What's the setup?
The setup is quite tough, to be honest, because we've talked about the standard of power dressage now. It is phenomenal, and the horsepower and the price of horsepower. So we are expected to have the same setup as an able-bodied rider, but a lot of the power riders can't kind of offset the extent of the expense of having horses due to our disabilities. Basically, I can't ride 7 horses of clients in the morning and then go teaching all afternoon. I just wouldn't have the capability and the energy. So it's quite tough. And for me, sponsorship was easier years ago when I was perhaps perceived to be the face of power dressage and taking on able-bodied as well and out there. But obviously, what has happened is what I wanted to happen. I didn't want to be the face of power dressage. I wanted to share that kind of exposure. I wanted the sport to become more recognised and respected. And now it has, and we have numerous stars: Sophie Christensen, Tasha Baker. I'm going to forget somebody and get shoot. Nikki Greenhill, Sophie Wells, Erin Orphan. I mean, the list can go on. And previous riders that have retired, etc. Ricky Balshaw, he'll tell me off if I don't mention.
Yes, you will. Yes.
So for me, I do teach. I try to teach a clinic most weekends, somewhere within a two-hour drive, non-COVID, obviously. Yeah. And I just do rely on having unbelievably good staff and support group, because if I had a weak member of staff and they were to phone in ill, it would be a massive struggle, if near impossible, for me to get a head collar on a horse. I'd have to be wedging it on a crutch, praying that the horse doesn't think it's being beaten with a crutch, try and get it over the head. What I'd probably do is throw a horse over a rope around the neck and try and lead them from the field from an electric wheelchair, to be fair, which I do lead my horses with electric wheelchairs, but the whole care of them would be very difficult. So
hang on, rewind. You lead your horses on an electric wheelchair?
Yeah, but the FEI won't let us trot them up from mobility scooters because they perceive that to be too dangerous. But yeah, we lead them all the time. I lead them with quad bikes sometimes as well. Oh, and as long as they don't get behind the exhaust and it doesn't give them a puff puff, then they're fine. So yeah, no, our horses are really, my horses hack a lot as well. So they are top dressage horses that do a lot of hacking, and most traffic doesn't upset them, to be fair. In fact, I will tell you a funny story.
Yeah, go on.
There's a young man called Dan who is riding Zion now, and
he was your Rio horse, right?
He was my Rio horse,
yeah.
And now he is nearly human. He is so with it, with life and everything, and I can power him up, and he looks turbocharged. But I can put a beginner on. My foster son sat on him 4 times, and he's now cantering around the arena on him. Oh yeah, he's really good. Well, the second time we went on an hour-long hack and we were cantering on the verge. The second time Jensen's ever been on a horse.
Oh, wow.
But now Dan's riding him, and Dan's partially sighted and probably see up to a metre, but nothing after that. And we went out on a very long hack, just me and him. And we happened to go to some council fields, which we broke in and had a gallop around. And then we came out of the council fields down to a main road where there's a massive verge that runs parallel to a crematorium. And we had a gallop along this massive verge by a main road. It's literally a main road verge. And I started laughing, and I laughed when I got back, and I was like, well, why are you laughing? I said, well, an old cripple who fell off, if I fell off, I couldn't get back on again, and a blind rider galloping along a verge next to a crematorium on dressage horses. You couldn't make it up.
You heard it here first, folks. You can't make that sort of... I call that blind bravery. There you go.
Blind bravery, literally, or stupidity, maybe.
I don't know. If you know your horse, You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know.
well, I was on Styletta in front, and she can be opinionated, but I knew whatever happened to me, Zion will probably take Dan home of his own accord anyway.
Right.
He's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, it's fabulous. It's really exciting. I love talking about this. We're not just doing the standard thing of asking you about everything normal that you'd expect to be asked about, but I'm
Yeah.
going to have to ask you some stuff about the Olympics because, of course, all our watchers here are going to want to know something, but I want a different story. I want the other side of the medal. I want something a little bit different that maybe you haven't told anyone else. You got any stories? London, Rio, anything interesting that our watchers are going to go, ha ha ha, like that?
Yeah, I don't. Now you really are putting me on the spot. I don't think I have because I've been a pretty open book through all the interviews and things that I've done over the years. Really, I think everybody else, even when I was doing the triple. So I did the triple gold in Sydney. That was a borrowed horse competition. So for people that don't know, you pulled a number out of a hat that was matched to a horse.
Yeah.
You had 2 days normally and only an hour to ride the horse each day to get used to it. And then you represented your country and went down the centre line on a horse that you really didn't know.
Didn't the
So
country have to
that
find
really,
they had to find like 120 horses, didn't they, for the para riders and have them
yeah.
in makeshift stables, and you'd put a number and just go and find your horse.
Yeah. And that really showed then more, even a different side, but your horsemanship and your adaptability again, and quickly assessing what you could change with a particular horse, what you couldn't change, and what you were going to change. When I say change, improve, basically. So I pulled a pure Arab called Chip Chase Meknes, and he wasn't the best and he wasn't the worst. He was kind of mid-range, and people would rejoin. So if you drew a terrible horse or horse, some horses never done dressage. Some were ex-race horses, and literally some were riding club horses. If there was a dressage horse there, everybody was praying for that number. I think there was like two. I only saw two dressage horses at the Sydney Games for Paralympians that were going around, and you could see that they were dressage horses. I didn't pull that number, but my horse Chip was just really user friendly and willing to accept me as with my disability. And I say that because a lot of people say, well, do your horses recognize your disability? I think I'm quite symmetrical, so my horses don't recognize particularly that I've got a disability. They just I think if you had a twin brother, they'd recognize the difference between you and your twin brother. They're so tuned in to kind of emotions and slight movements and sitting differently in your attitude and personality. So Chip just accepted me, and we did what we did. And then we went on to Athens, which Blue Circle Boy went on to.
Yeah.
And then we went on to London.
Yeah.
Was it that? Yeah, it was London. Even
yeah.
I get confused now. Yeah. And I was on Gentleman. No, we didn't. We had Beijing.
Of
Beijing.
Course, yes.
And I did the triple in Beijing because I knew I didn't do the triple in London. So I just basically, I suppose the only bit of internal thing is that I was never, ever, ever as confident and took it for granted that I was going to go in and do triple gold or even get gold medals. And then and even today, if I'm in the warm-up, everybody thinks I look really kind of, wow, I'm on it and I'm warming my horses up. But actually, if I try to not look at other people's horses because everybody else's horses look better than what I perceive mine to be.
I hear this again and again, though. Not in every sort of dressage. Everyone looks at another person's horse and goes, "Oh, that looks really nice." It's funny how our minds work, isn't it? It's just it's just that's the way it is.
And I think that's what has put me in the position I am today, because I actually always felt like the underdog, and that made me try even harder. I never, ever, ever took it for granted.
Now, I was watching a lot of your dressage, especially earlier, before I was preparing to interview you this evening. And, I watch a lot of riders. I mean, I watch riders normally outside of COVID times. Every day I'm watching different riders all day, probably more than judges. I watch riders from all walks of life on all sorts of horses. So I really get a feel for how the rider's sitting. And watching your balance and your core is quite incredible. I know it is. It's insane. But I'm just thinking, how do your aids change from an able-bodied rider?
Okay. Well, I feel unbelievably lucky that I do was born with a good seat, and but actually, if you watch me in slow motion, I'd like to say my pelvis is really supple, and it was very natural. It wasn't natural at the start, but now, and as Stephen picked up on it at first, he said you've had a really good seat. But actually, if you watch me in slow motion, my lower back also absorbs some movement
I saw
as
that.
well.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But I do have my great granddad, or was it my great great granddad, was the carriage, the driver of the carriage that took everybody from Leek to Ashbourne. So the bus that was pulled by horses. And I think he used to do 4 or 6 in hand and everything. And we since learned that he was also the local horse whisperer before. Obviously, it has a modern name now. But people used to take the horses to him to problem solve. And we think that's the route that my horsemanship came from. And getting back to your question about AIDS, I'm very lucky that I'm very central. In fact, the video that you showed with an awful shoulder in of Zion doing in Rio, because the video before that at Harvey was brilliant. Oh God, Tony's done a lovely video. He's even matched some music to it, and it looks really nice. And then we came up with that damn shoulder in at Rio, where Zion, in his own pre-sale, decided he didn't even know what shoulder in was. I was thinking you bar stool at the time. And what you don't know, so here's a bit of gossip, is I trained Blue Circle Boy for 2 years, and I trained for Athens, and kind of, the whole Sydney-Athens period. I didn't ride with stirrups. My balance was so good, and my feel was so good. But then as you get older, you start wearing stirrups. So zoom on to Rio, I'm riding with stirrups again. And Zion just wasn't letting me into his back. He was doing everything, but I was just thinking, and we are 1 minute before going to the 10-minute box. No, we weren't. We were in the 10-minute box. We were in the 10-minute box, and I just looked at my support staff that were hardly speaking. Zion was going okay, but I thought there's something more in the bank here. There's something more. We'd won a silver medal the day before, like in a championship test, and I just looked at my support group and I said, "Will you just take my stirrups off, please?" And if my manager at the time could have given birth to kittens, I think that would have happened. They were like, "Don't do this, Lee. Don't do this. You're going to be going down the alleyway into the Paralympic Stadium. Don't take your stirrups off." I said, "Just take your stirrups off me, please. I need to be deeper in the saddle.
Right.
I feel he's going to go behind my leg a little bit in the arena, and I just need to get rid of my stirrups." So a minute before going down into that stadium, my stirrups were removed.
Was it literally?
And I hadn't ridden.
Because I said to Kells, like, at Rio, he's not wearing stirrups. And she goes,
Yeah.
Well, we were looking at it. So this is a really good story. So it's literally a minute before you went on.
And I hadn't ridden particularly Zion without stirrups, and you should never make drastic change. If I was somebody's coach in that situation, I would like wipe the floor with them and refuse to do it. But I just knew. And then if you know Zion, and everybody that knows Zion, he breaks your heart. He's so amazing. I could put a toddler on him, and he would walk around the arena. He would walk down the main road, and I could put an advanced rider on him, and he would passage and do all the lateral work, and he breaks your heart how good he is. And I just knew that was the right thing to do, basically. And so literally a minute before, I took the stirrups off, and then we got a gold medal. That's what I was getting at to. So everybody was crying because it was a risk to take, and for that horse, before he became 2, or he's 18 now, for that horse to not retire, but basically go to his last Paralympic, to go to a Paralympic Games and win a gold medal, is kind of like just a dream come true for him.
Well, I saw it in your face. I saw it in your face at the end, the relief at the end of that test when you came to the centre line. And then it's wonderful, that lovely shot when the camera's on, you're like, and you stick your tongue out.
Even the relief, you still don't know how the judges have behaved and what they've seen and what they've liked and not liked. So until we got back to the box where you're whisked off a drug test and everything, you haven't heard the score until then. So literally, I've always, if I've been pleased with my horse, and the judges haven't, that's a preference to me than being not pleased with my horse. And maybe years ago, judges scoring you really high for tests that didn't deserve it. It's not nice either way, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was a dream come true. That was one of my most favourite gold medals.
So it's fabulous, isn't it, though? Because you've got 11 Olympic gold medals, Paralympic gold medals. Yes, 11 Paralympic gold medals, which actually makes you the largest medal holder in the UK for Paralympics. That's right, or actually for everything. Which is kind of cool. There's one more thing.
Google doesn't tell you where you are, but yeah, my friends and family kind of say there's more labels there that you could promote, Lee. But yeah, it's very surreal. I still wake up in the morning and think I really should do something with my life, believe it or not. I really do. Yeah.
Do you know what?
Do you want to know my next crazy idea?
Folks, do you want to know his next crazy idea? Hang on. Yes, we do. Go on.
A friend rang me yesterday and said the European Space Agency want a disabled astronaut.
Do it. Just do it.
I found the contact details and I've contacted them, and the applications are open on the 1st of March. So I'm applying to now become an astronaut.
That Mrs. Equidance is just here going, that is cool. I mean, no, it's not just cool winning Paralympic gold medals until you can't fit any more on your wall, but that is very cool. You have our support with that, my friend. If you need any music to travel into space with.
If you want to be an astronaut, just sit on my 3-year-old.
Yeah, if you want to be an astronaut, sit on our 3-year-old. Absolutely. That's what a nugget of information there. Listen, let's get back to the horses. That is awesome news. Quite a bombshell, really, because you've now ruined the rest of my interview, because that's kind of trumped everything, especially with the news of the landing on Mars. Maybe you'll go to Mars and spend 7 months traveling through hyperspace.
I'd like to take off, go up there, see what zero gravity, because I wouldn't need my crutches, and my legs are encased in plastic from my hips to my heels.
Perfect.
So and I can walk in a swimming pool in a fashion because of the buoyancy. So I just think it would be amazing to go to space and actually nearly walk like an able-bodied person. You might even see me doing star jumps and just any stupidity, basically.
Well, do you know what? These will be the best Facebook posts ever. I'd love that. Do you know what? One of my favourite quotes from you was, I rode a horse. I rode dressage because I was rubbish at running, skipping, and jumping.
Yeah. When people say that, I think Ricky's has a quote, I think, as a tattoo on him, and Ricky Balshaw, and he the horses are my legs, and they kind of literally are. I try not to dwell on that with mainstream media because they just kind of romanticize it a little bit too much. You know what I mean? And think it's just we sit there and the horses do everything. And the equine people watching this, the horses people watching, know that really isn't the case, whether you've got a disability or whether you're able-bodied. But yeah, even when I'm working on things like length and strides, and my favourite places in the arena on my own, just playing with my horses, I still feel that I'm a farmer's son. I feel like I'm a lorry driver's son, but I feel like a farmer's son playing at dressage. And they are my legs, really. They are our legs if you've got mobility issues.
You see, I don't even ride. You know that. I don't ride.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Kelly rides. I don't ride. But one day, I love horses. I absolutely love horses. When you said you love just going and watching them in the field, that's what I love doing. And when I go on clinics, I love meeting the horses. Probably a little bit more than I love meeting the people. But I love them. I absolutely fall in love with horses. Over the last 7-8 years since knowing Kelly, I love them. And now we're breeding and doing all sorts, so it's fabulous.
Have you ever sat on a horse, then?
Well, no, what I was going to say is, because obviously you've just got your son riding, what I thought would be a really cool idea is if I came up to you in the summer and you sat me on for a lesson. What do you reckon? Yeah.
You will have to sit on Xeon. He will just look after you. And
yeah, I think because you were saying because your boy is riding, you had him cantering after a couple of hours. Now that would literally scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, well, we're in that lesson. we have to challenge ourselves. Within that lesson, I want you to walk, trot, and have a few strides of canter.
Okay, we shall do that. Should we make a date of that? We'll do that in the summer.
Yeah.
Promise me that? Pinky promise.
Yeah. I was just going to suggest it, Pinky.
We heard it here first. This is going to be
Okay, man, can't get his pinky in the air very well.
Oh, mate. So what I'll do is
too many innuendos there.
I'll bring my Equidance caravan. You know, have you seen the caravan? The caravan, we call it.
No.
Oh, it's incredible. I'll drive the caravan up, which is bling. It's amazing. You'll love it. It's a mobile studio. And then we're just chatting now. We're just chatting. So,
well, there's another little thing here. There's another little story here that will amuse you. So, as well as training to be a foster dad, I'd already got my class 2, which is rigid HGV, which was quite novel for people locally for me to take that. So, I got a little bit bored. I think it was after COVID, the lockdown #1, and I did my class 1 Arctic.
So, oh my God, you are a lorry driver.
I'm actually a proper lorry driver now. I'm an Arctic driver. But I did that for a reason. I had an old lorry called Big Bird, and she had no living in, and we were going to Kiso.
Right.
And I wanted to tow a caravan behind it, but you can't tow anything over 750 kilogram behind HGV. My truck was 19, 20 ton. Without a class 1 license. So I contacted my centre. The driving standards agency had never had somebody, as far as they were aware, with my severity of disability. So they actually didn't have, within the rules, which they did have for class 2, rigid. In class 2, if you can't do something, you could request some help as long as you have the knowledge base.
Right.
But they didn't have that in their policy for class 1. So they had to kind of give us the authorization, because you literally have to get up behind the lorry, you have to plug in all your airlines and everything, you have to lower the legs and everything. But actually, I took a hydraulic lift with me, because there was nothing in the rules that you couldn't use a hydraulic lift either, that gets me on the horses at home, and I wedged that next to the lorry.
Yeah,
Sid's training at Stoke-on-Trent.
It's really high up.
Yeah, but I lifted myself up, and I plugged in all the hydraulics and everything. They couldn't argue, they couldn't say you hadn't done it, because they couldn't even say you can't do it with a lift, because I was playing them at their own game. I said, well, you haven't got anything in your policy to say that I can have human help, but you haven't got anything in the policy to say that I can't use a hydraulic lift either.
Oh, I think this is amazing. Absolutely
so like,
awesome.
Oh my God. So getting back to it, so I could tow a caravan to Kiso, I took this license and became an Arctic driver, but I also experimented with my hair and had it permed at the same time. So I looked like a traveller going down the M1, because I was in this old battered lorry, Big Bird, with a caravan behind, with a permed hair. We were so long, we were longer than normal Arctics, because of a HGV with a caravan on the back is a really long setup.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as if I hadn't done enough through last year, I decided to become an Arctic driver.
I think that's amazing. It's a real can-do attitude, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing we chime on that. I think you and I are very similar on that. It's just make it happen. But for you with your disabilities, my goodness me, what mountains you have to climb, my friend. That's amazing. Well done. Right, listen, we're going to have to move on to some questions. We've got some video questions from some of our audience. But before we go to that, I just want to ask you, I was watching on the videos, your saddle seems quite unique. What's the difference and how's it developed?
Well, I used to be sponsored by Barnsby Saddlery, who obviously ceased trading however many years ago, and then the director at Barnsby moved to Ideal Saddle, so I'm really supportive of their enthusiasm and experimentation. But in a nutshell, we just make sure that the horses have the correct tree for them, and we try and perhaps build the seat up a little bit more in the middle, so because I haven't got much strength and movement in my legs, we try to get to a stage that I can swing my legs as easy as possible. So a round cob type horse with a round saddle wouldn't be great for me. No. All my movement comes from my hips, literally. My knee, as I said before, my legs are encased in plastic from hip to heel. So when you see me move my leg, it's usually I push my knee into the saddle, which my then ankle comes out a little bit, and I let it drop back in again. And basically, the knee rolls have been moved uphill to become more thigh rolls, really. So very much similar to like an Australian stock saddle. Right. So nothing holds me in at all whatsoever. And we're always thinking about ideas with ideal saddles to better the situation and see if we can improve things. So, but basically, yeah, it's a normal. I think we're on the Jessica. Tree, but I think I bet they'll message me in a minute and say that's not true. And then the knee rolls. If I had normal knee rolls, generally it pushes my leg too far back. My legs kind of fall in a show jumping position, but because they're fixed, if you try and push the leg further back, then the heels will become a numner lifter. And I tell my clients off when they do half passes and they become a numner lifter as it is. So we couldn't have the boss being a numner lifter at the same time, could we?
That's brilliant. Love it. Right, let's get to our first question. Our first question is, let's have a look. It's here.
Hi Equidance, thank you for this evening. A question for Lee. How did you get into dressage and what's your daily training program?
There we go. A question for Lee. How did you get into dressage and what's your daily training program? Now we've already done the dressage bit, Val. So let's go for the daily training program.
I can add to that for Val. So I got into dressage because I'm absolutely useless at jumping. Now you can go well, many people are used to jumping, right? But do you want to know why I'm even more embarrassed? Because I have 4 legs. I'm on my crutches all my life, from the moment I wake till I go to sleep again. I'm on my crutches or I'm on a scooter. So I have 4 legs, and coping with daily life, I automatically work strides out in my head. So if I come to an escalator and I don't want to look an idiot and end up in a heap, as I'm walking to an escalator, I'm working the strides out. So my feet and crutches hit the same step. Do you know what I mean? But it's the same with slippy surfaces, going carpet, going up to low steps, anything. I automatically walk, going to a curb, even going across the road, and it's something you don't even think about. You just walk across the road, you lift your leg up, you're on the curb. But when you're on 4 legs, you unconsciously look for strides. I cannot see a stride on a horse. I've tried opening my eyes, I've tried closing my eyes, I've tried the show jumping route of strides, I've tried the eventing route of just go get the horse, go at it. I can guarantee I will demolish everything, and if you put a pole on the ground, me and Zion will stand on it. That's how useless I am at jumping. I used to do it as a riding club, and the other members used to have a vote on which fence I was going to fly off on.
I'm sorry, I wasn't going to ask you about jumping tonight because just the thought of you having a go at jumps terrifies me. It's like I
still want to do it, and when I've retired and I don't have to be so sensible, I'm going to have a crazy cob to go hacking more around the roads and going on adventures and things, and then don't let my mum hear this, because even though I'm 47 now, she will tell me off because she's been to the hospital far too many times with me. Yeah, I am going to do a bit of jumping again, but it will be horrendous. It will be horrendous.
I love that. Yeah, we're the same age.
You look so much younger than me.
I don't know about that. What do you reckon, babe? I think we look the same age. Don't put me on the spot here, she said. We're the same age. 1973.
Say that again.
1973.
I'm 1974, so you're a little bit older.
There we go. Okay.
Well, I put 10 years on me when I shaved my hair off.
Well, look at this locked. Honestly, normally this is a grade 1 on the sides. It's horrendous. It's really.
We're cutting it tomorrow for a lockdown special.
Are we? Apparently, we're cutting it for a lockdown special tomorrow.
Are you shaving both of each other's hair?
Can't.
Yeah, he's got to do the back of mine.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not. No, do you know the last time I did anything to Mrs. Equidance's hair, she asked me to bleach it 6 years ago. I put the bleach on and left it on for too long, and her hair fell off, and she looked like Yaz.
Don't look like
Jimmy Savile. So that's
my daily routine is very relaxed, really. I say we don't have facilities at home on my farm at the moment, so we have to load the horses up and transport them either to my auntie that has a little old indoor arena, or my parents where I used to be based and I have an outdoor arena. So we hack, the horses have a day off, we school, the horses have a day off, and then we either school again or we hack again, and it's generally kind of the horses get exercised every other day. I'm very much like other known riders that my horses have a lot of turnout. I do believe that keeping them as natural as possible is the best way. But at the moment they're out every day and then they're in every night. on their Bliss bedding, because that's my bedding sponsor, which you said I could kindly mention the people that have supported me.
Oh, of course you can. It's really important.
And Johnson and Howell feed. And I'm saying them because people say to me, presume I've got loads of sponsors. Those are the only 3 sponsors that I actually have. And I have been with all of them. Obviously, we changed from Barnsby to Ideal because Barnsby ceased trading, but I moved with James Hitchin from Barnsby to Ideal. And I think I've been with most of them for about 15, 20 years now.
Well, you might have another one if you give me a lesson.
Thank you.
You heard it here first. Anyway, moving swiftly on, let's go on to our next question. And this one is from Jason. Now, Jason's also a grade 2 rider. So here's his question.
Hi Sir Lee, my name is Jason and I'm also a grade 2 rider. Watching you and Natasha Baker at the London 2012 Paralympic Games has inspired me to ride better and compete. You have been at this top of the sport for so many years. What first inspired you, and how have you been able to maintain this for so many years? Thank you.
Lovely question and a lovely smile there.
Yeah. Very handsome man. Him, not me. That was, horses inspire me. I'm not actually into sport particularly, hence why the 2 times that I've been on Question of Sport over the years, I've been on the losing team.
I was bringing that up later.
Yeah, horses and people. Because I do love people as well, and I love coaching and training people. I'm really strict, but I'm really naughty and good fun, and I feel that you have to be an equine psychologist and a human psychologist to get the best out of other people. And I'm really fair with horses, and I'm really fair with people, and so the grassroots core of horse riding and horsey people inspire me. I don't always get so inspired as it goes up the ranks and governing bodies and rules and silly regulations. It's true.
Oh, it's true, for sure.
And what has kept me there, blatantly the horses, but also to pay the mortgage. Do you know what I mean? I think people think when you win a gold medal, you're kind of set up for life. And maybe years ago, perhaps certain people were. But I find our industry very strange. I find it strange that we're perceived to be extremely posh. We're all posh and we're all loaded. I find that very strange because I think the majority of us are covered in horse poo.
Yes.
The majority of us spend every bit of money we have on our horses and not much else. And I've always promoted horse riding and say, look, there's not many sports where it goes from a 3-year-old toddler through every age range, through both sexes, all the way up to the queen that ride. Do you know what I mean? It covers, equestrianism covers every single base. And I do feel us as a sport, we don't promote that enough. Do you know what I mean? And the general public see us in that, well, not top hat and tails anymore, but show jockeys doing fancy horses, doing pretty circles, and they all just think we're born in a bloody castle. And it doesn't help that I'm a bloody knight now, because that's just made the perception even worse.
Yeah, it has actually, ruined it.
But I'm just a bloke from Stoke, really, that happened to become a knight. And what has kept me going is to pay the mortgage. If I can't just choose to retire, I can't just go, okay, today the politics have annoyed me, I'm just going to retire. I have a mortgage to pay, I have bills to pay, I have animals to look after. So that is a part of it. Nobody realistically can choose to give the job up. And this is my job, career, lifestyle, kind of everything, really.
And any words of advice for Jason there? He's a grade 2 rider, clearly very inspired by you and your journey. Any particular words of advice for Jason?
Yeah, I'm a grade 2 rider, so don't become too good.
We love that. Maybe you'll be mentoring him on the team. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, no. Well, maybe when you come up, you bring Jason up as well, and we let him have a sit on Xeon.
We'll have to get.
You've got
We'll have to, get
you've
in
got to
touch with
arrange that,
Jason's mum.
Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. We know Jason's mum, so fabulous. That is awesome.
No, just enjoy it, honestly. I mean, everybody would love to go to the Paralympics. The rules have changed now. We used to have 7 riders go from Great Britain, but we're down to the same as everybody else now. 3 riders for the team, 1 individual. There's 5 grades as well, so there won't be even 1 person representing each grade. It's very, 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 very tough at the top. So love your cheesy, but love your horse, love the dressage, whatever the scores may be, and just be grateful we're here, we're doing it, and we just make most of the opportunity, really.
Go for the personal best.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Right, so we got another question here, and this is from, this is from a good mate of mine. He's called John Clare. He's an amazing like boogie woogie pianist musician. He's like, literally, I've known him for 20 odd years, and he sent in, for the first time through the whole show, he sent in a question, because normally on a Friday night he's doing a live gig, but tonight he was on the Southwest BBC News playing them out. How cool is that?
Oh,
so both John
amazing.
and his lovely wife Kelly have got questions, but this is John Clare's question for you. Here you go.
Hello, Sir Lee. I was wondering if I could ask you a question. I've got a 7-year-old, mostly thoroughbred. He's a nice horse. He moves quite well, but I wondered if there are any tips or training exercises that you use when you're trying to get your horse working more from behind and maybe being a bit more supple in the neck as well. I think this would help us going forwards.
So there we go. We've got a thoroughbred there, and John needs some advice on getting him working more from behind and more supple through the back and neck.
I said to you, I produced Blue Circle Boy kind of to Grand Prix. The videos, the proof is there on YouTube. And then I came to my second horse, Gentleman. I actually didn't have any principles behind my training, really. And I thought, I don't know where to start and working out what is the most important thing. So to keep it very, very basic, which is the way I actually ride, is when I'm riding my horses, I split my brain into 2, taking out my seat, which we've discussed, and suppleness of me and the horsemanship. And I'm always thinking, is my horse accepting my leg? And then equally, usually, unless I need to move the percentages, I'm thinking, is my horse accepting my hand? And that takes me, and that principle is the same whether I'm riding a 3-year-old, freshly broken in horse or a Grand Prix horse. If you're doing piaffe on the spot, you're always thinking, is my horse accepting my leg? Is my horse accepting my rein? Does it need less rein, more rein, a different rein? Does it need less leg, more leg? So that really helped me to just think, because when you're learning, you ideally stick with one trainer, but you might choose to change your trainer, or you might go to different trainers. And I used to get really confused on the language and how what one trainer would think a certain element was more important than another element. So for me, when I'm riding, whatever level, whatever horse, I'm always doing very quick assessments. Are you accessing my leg? You might be turbocharged, but you might not be in front of the leg. You might not be listening to my go aid. And are you accepting my hand? Can I ask you to be softer and more supple? Can I easily encourage you to look to the inside, to the outside? Have you poll on top? Have you long and stretching? And that isn't just like, oh, make your horse long and low, for example, or ride your horse with a poll on top. That's to do with accepting the rein, the half halts, and even with the half halts, you need to be able to have the ability to engage straight away, before and after a half halt. So you can get very confused on, oh my God, I don't know where to start, especially if you're training on your own in a field, which is what I do. And I always go back to, there's those 2 elements. Are you accepting my leg and hand? And then the engagement. There's different ways to engage. I have a technique that is, I ride, and then I encourage my clients. They're allowed 1 click, my horses. They're allowed 1 touch like a fly, and then they would get more of a stronger reprimand with the whip, to be encouraged to listen to the lighter aid. And what that means is that horses don't get regular use of the whip, because actually they have two non-invasive ways of being asked to engage and go in front of the leg before they would get a more severe one. And that means that, I often don't have to use my whip at all, because I've trained my horses to respect. And although it sounds hard when you're talking about whips and horses, to me, if I was a horse, I would prefer someone to just tell me off and say, no, this is, if I understood what was being asked of me, to go, okay, don't ignore me, don't be rude, just do, than a lifetime of nagging with spurs. Do you know what I mean? I still can't comprehend, and some people are going to hate this, how, there's certain things you can and can't do, but you can kick your horse with metal for its life, really, and as long as you don't damage the horse, then that's okay.
Totally.
Whereas I've given you a vocal aid to engage or move forward, and now I've given you a physical aid, which for me is a very light aid, and then you would get the reminder not to ignore me. And then the horses, for me and my clients, I've had horses come in that they might as well have been a corpse. They've got so much behind the leg, and they turned off so much physically and mentally from the rider going nag, 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 nag. And then I use this technique, and literally, as a mainly able-bodied clients, their eyes are on stilts. Like, I've ridden this horse, they'll say, for 15 years, and it's never ever been in front of the leg like this. And I was like, well,
really good to hear. You know, we were going to have Tristan Tucker on next week, but he's having a baby. So this is really interesting. I can't wait to talk to him about his training techniques, so the TRT method. But he's going to come on the week after now because of the baby, obviously. And we've got so we've got another scientist on next week. We've got Russell from Centaur Biomechanics.
Okay, yeah.
So it's all really good.
We work a lot.
Yeah, we've been really exploring the science as well, but the psychology and the horse psychology is really important. That's lovely to hear you say that, actually. Should we go to the next question?
Yeah.
Right, so we've got one from, now this is from William Human. It's quite human. He should be called humorous, shouldn't you, Will? Here we go.
Good evening, Sir Lee. I've got 2 questions for you. If it hadn't been horses and dressage, what other sports would you like to have tried? And secondly, Margaret Thatcher or the Queen?
Okay, so thanks for that, Will. That was a genius question. Let's just go for the first part. If it hadn't have been dressage as a sport, I mean, we've already touched on all the things you'd like to do, like an astronaut, but if it hadn't have been that back in those days, what would it have been? Formula One driving?
How did you know that?
I didn't. I'm just literally shooting from the hip because that's what I love.
Well, before COVID, I was in discussions to become a racing driver.
No, because no way. Because that's what I'd love to be. That is my thing. We really do chime.
And I was talking. I'd been asked to go for a meeting with a very, very influential man within motorsport, and who was deliberating putting a race team together. There is a few out there already, but he was thinking of putting a race team together with disabled drivers. And he was at a meal where he was sat next to a lady who knew that I wanted to become a racing driver, because you use feel, going back to the saddle and feel.
It's your bum. It's all in your bum. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's all in your backside.
Whether you can go faster or whether you should slow down a little bit. And I love my cars. I'm a Land Rover ambassador, but also, I don't mind telling you, but I occasionally contact them and ask them if I can steal the odd Jaguar sports car. So I drove to France in an F-Type to Le Mans.
Shut up now. No, shut up. You're making me jealous. No, don't want to hear about it.
I drove to Le Mans to a wedding, and then I nearly got arrested because I kept giving the clients driving experiences around Le Mans village, and they sent the police out on me. I nearly got arrested in Le Mans with a sports car.
Oh, we have just totally touched on the wrong subject. This is something you and I need to talk about outside of this, because honestly, that's my thing. I mean, cars and driving, that's my thing. If I had time, but I don't, because I've got 3 kids.
It's got horsepower.
Yeah, proper horsepower. So,
excuse me. Horses are proper horsepower.
Yeah, well, you wait till you give me a lesson, then you can show me the proper horsepower. I won't do it with my wife.
Yeah, maybe one day, and that may still happen. I mean, obviously, it's been shelved briefly, but if there was a man in this country that could make it happen, he was the man. I don't want to go into detail, but yeah, if he wants it to happen, it may happen.
I'm kind of guessing right now, but let's watch this space, folks. It's either going to be Formula One or astronaut for Lee in the future. So, oh my God, this podcast has turned into something else. This is brilliant. So
What did you expect, Tony? What did you
I
expect?
don't quite know. I knew we'd get on well because we're similar, but I didn't quite know we'd get on well this well.
To go for Richard Hammond's land speed record.
Richard Hammond's land speed record. No, I don't think you should do that at all.
Well, I'm one of those people that I have to shut up at dinner parties because people think I'm doing upmanship, but I'm really not. But Claire Balding came to my house to interview me a couple of years ago, and she had to get here and back to the races, and she came in Richard Hammond's helicopter.
Did she?
Yeah.
Now? I didn't know
Yeah.
she flew in helicopters.
Yeah, no, she came in Richard Hammond's helicopter. So I met Richard Hammond. I think I might have Richard.
So how am I going to beat that when I come to yours? What am I going to have to do to outdo?
Drone. You said you like drones.
I've got my drone. I've got
a
a beautiful drone right here. I'm going to bring it with me anyway because you got to
So
film
you can play with
my.
that.
We've got to leave it up there filming my. And also we'll have to get your boy on my big camera filming me doing
Yeah.
a lesson. You'll
Yeah,
love
definitely. And the Queen, because she's still alive, so I won't get into trouble. But I have got into trouble.
Well, no, that's the second part of the question, Lee. Hang on. The second part of the question was Margaret Thatcher, who carried you
Or
up
the
the steps of 10 Downing Street, or the Queen, who hit you with a sword.
She didn't hit me with his sword.
Oh.
William hit me with his sword.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going there for an innuendo because of the watershed. But yeah, I've had William's sword on my shoulder.
Amazing. That's awesome.
Tony's like, I'm not gonna react to that
That's
one.
amazing.
Anymore.
Did his wife
No.
whinge about it and start a lawsuit? Sorry, no, let's not go there.
No, the Queen, and I have got in trouble with her before as well. Because I winked at her by accident.
Did
twice.
you? Is that, you're not allowed to do that.
I know, but I don't have any other disability that would encourage me to wink by accident. But when you stood in front of the Queen, and she's kind of inferior, she's watched you on television and really likes your horse, and I just winked at her.
I think I would, though. I think I would. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Oh my god, wink, and then I was like, "Don't do that." And I did it again. So yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Right, come on, let's move. So there you go. The answer, I think, will to the Queen or Margaret Thatcher. Just give us A or B. Which one?
The Queen.
B. There you go. It's the Queen. There we go. We won't expand on that any further. Or talk about her siblings or anything to do with royalty from this point onwards, because I'm getting into trouble with Mrs. Equidance. Let's move on to the next question, and it's from Kelly Claire, which is John's.
Hi, Sully. Do you have a favourite horse? And if so, which one is it? Is it the one that wins you the most, or the one with the quirkiest character?
What a smashing question. Do you have a favourite horse? Is it the one that wins you the most or the one with the best character?
My most medal horse is a horse called Gentleman, who's now lives with a lady called Laura, who, and she won't mind me saying, I think she's in her 70s and she absolutely adores him. And he was the most difficult horse to love because he used to bite people, and he used to, you could get on him on a long rein at the stables, and by the time you got to the arena, you knew what mood he was going to be in.
Right.
And I took him to Beijing and London. So he's my most medal Paralympic horse. Styletta is my most current frustrating horse because she is unbelievably talented, but channeling her own adrenaline. She can go down a main road and pass lorries, juggernauts, HGVs, tractors, the works. But if there was a man walking a dog in a coloured coat that she doesn't like, she'll take me home of her own accord.
Right. This is the one we're going to get sponsors for Steph Erdley for, aren't we?
Yeah. But she is truly amazing. She is one of the most talented horses I've ever trained and sat on. She is quite phenomenal. But I have to whisper to him in the stables because I don't think it's fair to let the other horses know. But Zion will always have an unbelievably special place in my heart, and he does everybody that meets him as well. Which I could cry when I'm talking about him. And he's a miserable old man now. He's 18, and he's been demoted to a horse trailer because the horse box had to go to horse box heaven last week. And he's tried to kick the grooms twice, loaded him on the trailer. He's gone on the trailer and then tried to boot them, which I just laugh. Because if I walk around the corner, he goes like this to me. It's like, Dad, whatever they're saying never happened. And I'm like, would you like a little tap with a crutch, mate, if you're going to be naughty with the grooms? He's like, wasn't me. I never did anything. But no, he is, I can't say favourite because that's just not fair on all the horses I have. And Breeze is phenomenal. And Blue Circle Boy was just a freak of nature. And I just, as a rider, I just think every single horse you've sat on, and for me, going very briefly back to that borrowed horse competition, that major one in Sydney, I trained from 1998 to 1999 to 2000. I worked it out, trained, sat on, competed 200 to 250 different horses.
Wow.
Because the only way you can train for a borrowed horse competition is go to centres and ride everything. I mean, we went to Inglestree, we went to Talon, we went to so many colleges and riding schools, and we just rode everything to gain that experience. So if you pulled a number out of a hat and it was similar to a horse you'd already sat on, then you drew on that information and what you could and couldn't do a bit quicker. So I'm grateful for every single horse that I've ever sat on, even the naughty ones.
Oh, that's a lovely answer. That is, absolutely. I mean, I know, obviously, as you know, I don't ride, but Mrs. Equidance behind me here, Kelly, we've got 3 currently, one not with us, who's on a mare program down at Newton Stud. And now we've got 4. We do have 4. We've got our new boy, De Niro, Johnson by De Niro. Oh,
wow.
I know. It was a gift. It's amazing. We can't wait for him to turn up in the spring. Yes. It was like we won the lottery with that one, so can't wait for that.
I don't mind those type of gifts.
I know. Well, I'll tell you more about that afterwards, but that is awesome. He's coming in the spring. We've got our Spanish Fat Cob, Dandy, who doesn't like me because he gets jealous if I go near him if Kelly's there. And then we've got the girl, the little mare we bred, the filly called Avalon from our mare, and she's lovely. But I don't have a favourite. I don't have a favourite. I love them all.
No.
I think they're all so different.
Yeah. And you love them for different reasons.
Now, listen, we're going to move on to the last question from the audience this evening. This one's a little bit more thoughtful in a way and a little bit more now and topical. So this question is from Tracy. Here we go.
Hi Lee, thank you very much for taking my question. In light of the recent sad events with Matthew Wright, I just want to know, have you experienced any social media negativity or worse, trolling, anything like that? And how did you cope with it? And any advice for anyone who is struggling within, be it a rider or not a rider? Thank you.
And thank you, Tracy, for that lovely question. Yes. You heard all of that?
And obviously we're all thinking about Matthew and his family. Absolutely just terrible. I was talking about the internet today with a work experience girl of 14. We talk about mobile phones and how easy it is to access people and how easy it is to bully. And I took it back to the years when I was a kid and we had the telephones and you had to do the dial every single number. And she was like, well, what happened in an emergency? I said, well, you have to phone a neighbour of your parents if you couldn't get hold of your parents, if they'd left it off the hook or if they were on the line. And she was just really intrigued. And then it's just too easy. Online bullying is too easy. I was sat with Jensen, my son, earlier on, and he was playing FIFA on the Xbox, and he won a game, and a chat line came up, and the abuse that he received for winning this game was horrific. And I was very proud of him. I said, well, you're responding. What are you responding with? He said, I'm responding with LOL and haha. And he was saying horrible homophobic words to him. He was saying he wished things had happened to his family, and just through winning a FIFA game online. So it's rife and it's horrific, and you have to ignore it. It's difficult. I had a lot of stick after London because a very, very well-known newspaper contacted me to say other para riders have received upgraded honours and received honours, and we thought you'd be knighted and you haven't, and what are your thoughts? And I was like, well, there's a discrepancy between the worth of an Olympic medal and a Paralympic medal. Paralympic medals are still being perceived through the honours system to not be as worthy, so that's kind of something you have to take on the chin. You can't change anything, and it is what it is. And then this reporter goes, at the end of the session, well, in the office, we're really peed off that you haven't been knighted. And I said, well, yeah, I kind of understand that, and you can come from that angle, but it is what it is. And then they wrote in the national newspaper that I wanted a knighthood and I was peed off because I didn't get one. And that kind of went viral, which is not, and it's nice today and other interviews that I've done to set the record straight, that is not at all what was said. What was said was that it's a shame equivalent to an Olympian can go to one Games, win 2 gold medals, and then become a dame or a knight. And a Paralympian can go to numerous Paralympic Games. Life is hard enough, competing in sport is hard enough, and you still don't get the same recognition. So that's where my answers were coming from. And I got a lot of online bashing from that, like, who does he think he is? Kind of, what a plonker, but worse. And my family were also going, oh, that wasn't your best interview, was it, Lee? You shouldn't have said that. I'm like, I didn't say that. But you can't then, I can't get on the national papers and say, oh, that isn't what I said, because they've already written it. So that was not nice. And I can still look back on kind of chat rooms to those dates and see how awful people were. Whereas actually you think perhaps they could have seen through what they thought had been said, and realised all I was doing was sticking up for people with disability, really, and Paralympic sport.
Yeah, because people read stuff, don't they? They read stuff on their social media and they read it as fact. There's no reading in between the lines. If it's there, and then what makes it worse is that people then like it and share it, which then kind of perpetuates the mistruth. So, oh my God, so many people have shared this. So many people have commented on it. It must be true. And that's a really bad thing.
And then when I was knighted, and that is out of your control, people said, oh, it's nice that you've now got your knighthood that you wanted. No. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I'd really like a knighthood. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I loved all my honours. I loved my MBE. My MBE was, I didn't even understand the honours system. I didn't know what an MBE was. I didn't know there were orders of the British Empire. I didn't know the structure. Didn't know it was not part of my world. And it still isn't now. I still get embarrassed when people call me that. But at the same time, it's nice for them. And it does show perhaps recognition. But that isn't what was said. And then at the London Games, this is a little bit different than perhaps online media. I received a death threat via a letter. Via an email. I received a letter, and whilst I was in the London Paralympic Village, and it was put in the hands of the police, and they eventually said they couldn't find the person because you don't have to always register an email, and it could be registered from a previous email, from a previous email, from a previous email. And I encouraged them to look further into it. And then they eventually found, and they said, did I want charges put in place or just have words with him? And I was in a mental space where I just wanted to concentrate on the job in hand and not be thinking. So I just said, if you could have words with him, that would be great. But going into the Olympic London arena, I was wondering whether I'd got a red dot on the side of my head.
Oh my God.
And as much as, you want to celebrate sport and it's amazing, and it was just that it did add a degree of obviously concern and negativity. But I've grown up with my disability. I found coming out really, really difficult. I was in a terrible headspace. I did not want to be that person. I wanted the 2.2 family, whatever the phrase is. Probably 2.5 family. Well, I just wanted the normal family. I was in my mum's words when I came out, she took it really difficulty. Well, all my family kind of struggled with it a lot. One brother less, perhaps. She said, you're abnormal enough, and I don't want you to be bullied, and I don't want you to have she didn't mean it. She meant I'd been through so much in my life already, then to have to go through coming out. And how many years ago now did I come out? In my 20s? So 27 years ago, the world was a different place. Do you know what I mean? And you had to be very strong to come out. But yeah, I didn't want to be on this planet either in those years. And I used my disability as strength, but I was never bullied at school. I'm not going to sit here and say I was. I had a great childhood. I had great friends, was reasonably popular, and people accepted me for who I was, not what I was or the way I looked. And I just had to, I hated myself before as these feelings developed. And then I had to somehow convince myself to like myself, and then realize that I didn't want a 21st birthday party where my parents hire the village hall and celebrate me, because they didn't know me at that stage. I pushed myself away so much because I hated myself and I wanted them to hate me. And then I thought the general public would hate me. So I had to try and like myself somehow and accept myself. And I used the strength of having my disability from day one to help to pull me through that, really. And to help, getting back to the lady's question, I just believe that nobody is better than anybody else. And I think if you've got to bully somebody, you really, really are quite insecure yourself. So when I have seen online bullying, I actually feel sympathy for those people. You're not a very strong person in life if you have to put somebody else down to make yourself feel better. Do you know what I mean? And I feel generally, and it's not always the case, it's weak people often prey on stronger people. Do you know what I mean? I'm a strong person. I don't feel it, but I don't feel the need to put anybody down. And my experiences of people in different circumstances has brought me to that conclusion. I think if you're happy within yourself and you're the strongest that you can be, you don't need to put other people down to make yourself feel better. So just believe that I'm no better than anybody else because I'm a knight. I'm no better than anybody else because I'm a gold medalist. When I'm in a coffin, it's immaterial. Do you know what I mean? I feel I'm nice because I'm a nice person, and I've got an awful humour. And if you've heard me humour sometimes, you think, oh my God, Lee, sometimes you're not very nice.
I've already been warned that you've got like a very twisted sense of humour, so that's another reason why we're going to get on so well, Lee. So that's
yeah, but behind that, there's still a lot of love. Do you know what I mean? And there's still a lot of respect for people. So I just think go through life never believing that anybody is better or worse than you. Yeah, the waiter or the waitress isn't any less of a person than the owner of the restaurant.
Absolutely. But it's about being kind, isn't it? And generous and loving and caring. And there's no reason to attack anyone. If you feel abridged about something, if you feel a little bit aggrieved about something you've read online, scroll on.
Yeah.
Don't react. Just don't react. I mean, it's just so petty these days. But I think it's exacerbated, it's magnified by this horrible kind of stir crazy claustrophobia we're feeling from the COVID pandemic and the lockdowns, and tempers are frayed. People are feeling a little bit fragile and insular, but there's no excuse for nastiness. Don't be nasty, folks.
No, not at all.
No excuse for nastiness. Hey, we've had a fabulous chat. We got one more question.
Got one question from Steph Eardley.
Oh, Steph Eardley sent the question in. Aha!
Who's that?
We've done no idea. Never heard of her before. Some rider.
Some rider.
Which medal was your favourite?
Oh, which medal was your favourite?
The first.
I bet. So
I never dreamed I'd be a sportsman. Never dreamed I would be a Paralympian. Never dreamed I would get a medal. And then to go to your first games as a reasonably unknown person and to get a gold medal, I mean, that's like fairy tale stuff.
I bet.
The pressure since then was to win a game. And but yeah, my first gold medal was just surreal.
Which actually, can we just say, everyone after 2000, when was it? After 2000, every competition you entered in Paralympic Games, you won gold. Actually, can I just show the folks here? I've got it here. I have got it here. Where is it? Let me just bring it in, because I bought this image in to show the folk, and I don't think I bought it in. So let me just bring it here. Videos to use. No. We want pictures to show. No, it's not going to let me bring it in. But I had a record of all of it on your how many medals you've won over the years, and to put it into context, it's really quite mind blowing.
I don't get up in the morning and think about it, believe you me. And I don't know the exact number. The behind you are my Paralympic
34.
medals, most of them on the wall. But then there's a pack of bubble wrapped other medals to the side of a sideboard that are just there because there's nowhere to put them. But no, that doesn't. It's like you're talking about somebody else because I do look. I never look backwards really, particularly. I have got an awful memory, which my friends and family would agree with. And I just look forward to today, and it sounds cheesy, like I'm trying to, I don't know, chant something, but I try and enjoy every day and try and enjoy tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I don't really dwell on what I have done. The horses don't look kind of backwards really, and we just look forward to the future really, and enjoy every day. Just try and enjoy every day. There's a lot of miserable people out there as well.
Oh God, isn't there? A load of miserable people.
Mm,
Hey, look, there's
do you know what I
something
mean?
we need to talk about because something fantastic that's come out recently, which is your book, your autobiography. And the first few lucky buyers can get a boxed and signed version. Now, I've got an image here as well. Look, there we go. Look at this. It's a Lee Pearson signed box limited edition of 1,500. Only 1,500. You must be running out already. Published. You've got to buy them in advance. May 2021. Is that right?
Yeah. So
folks,
it's been ongoing. I have been writing it for years, basically, and I kind of shelved it for a while, and then was just encouraged to get it complete by Andy, who works with at Away with Media, which is where you can order the book, and he has been so supportive and so proactive because now we discussed what the book looks like, and people have seen the book, and it's got some kind of lovely packaging, and there's a picture of a kind of a medal, and you open it up with this Union Jack and blah blah blah, and I think it's going to be really special. I've seen Andy opening it, but I haven't actually had a book yet, and I should receive one this week. And then I've gone really insecure and said, last message to Andy was like, the book looks absolutely amazing. I'm now dreading that the reading of the book is not going to live up to the outside of the book.
No, it does. It's very stylish, but can I ask, with all these autobiographies, a lot of people have a ghostwriter. Did you do this yourself, or with a bit of help, or was it?
Well, yeah, no, I had a ghostwriter, which basically he recorded everything I said, and he put that to the more or less the exact words. So I am the author.
Yeah.
It's to save me sat there typing, which wouldn't happen if you've got fingers like mine. But we had weeks of just conversations like tonight, basically. And then he wrote that up, and we changed things, and we passed things through with my mum generally, because obviously, well, I had a horrific birth and many operations, so we wanted to make sure that it was as factually correct as possible. And some people have been put off because they think, oh, it's a sporting autobiography. It covers my birth, which I say was not one that anybody would want to go through. It covers the disability, the operations, the coming out in much more in depth than we managed tonight. And the successes, I'd like to say it's a rags to riches, but I'm not rich, so it's a rags to
rags to
more rags.
More rags.
Rags to more rags, basically.
So if you ever get,
and we had the choice. I had the choice to not use Andy's company and go with a mainstream publisher, and they would have come up with like an allowance in an advance.
Yeah.
But your mainstream shops, they have your book on the shelves usually for months, 2 months, and then you literally struggle to get the book again. You're only on the shelves. I didn't know this. You're only on the shelves for a period, and then you're in the bargain basement bin.
No, totally and utterly.
Nobody's putting Babe in the corner. Nobody is putting Lee in the bargain basement bin.
Yeah, you do it independently. I love the way you've done it, and I love the fact it's boxed, signed. That's wonderful. Yeah,
but what we wanted was a book that, if I don't know, parents have a disabled child in the future, you can go, okay, let's read Lee's story and how his mum coped with it and how Lee coped with it. If someone's struggling with coming out, or some parents are struggling with a child coming out, maybe they'll think, we'll get Lee's. People are going to buy it for numerous different reasons, and I wanted it out there not for a big massive impact now. I wanted it out there for longevity, that in 10 years' time, someone that might be struggling with something or wants to just read my story, the book's still going to be available.
Oh, it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Well, I think we've had a wonderful chat tonight, Lee. It's been really good to get to know you, and hopefully for our guests out there as well, our audience out there, it's been great to get to know Lee properly. The proper Lee, not just what you hear on the normal media and the normal standard questions. Yeah. That's what we do, ladies and gentlemen. It's what we're all about. Now, listen, Lee, please go and place your pre-order on that book, because I tell you now, they're going to go really quickly. I know they will. So get your order in now before you run out of time. We're going to say goodbye to Lee right now, but we're also going to say, please support our charity, our Horse World, because you may have seen the news this week, of course, as I said earlier, with the London stables who needed £1 million to keep going. It's not much different for Horse World, but Horse World also supply rides for challenged and disabled riders. And they help with the horses who are, especially now, really needing some support and love. And they're the most amazing place. So if you could please possibly just give us £3. All you need to do is text Horseworld to 70085. That's Horseworld to 70085 to donate. It's not much, it's £3. You can do it several times. You can also go onto our normal Equidance Facebook feed and see the link to where you can buy Lee's book. I posted it just before the show, so it's there and it'll take you directly through, so you can put your pre-order in now. But right now, I just want to say a massive thank you to my very, very special guest tonight, Sir Lee Pearson. It's been an absolute honour and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you ever so much. Stay on the line. We'll have a little debrief. But for now, we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thank you very much for viewing. Next week, we have some amazing people as well, as you know. But it's changed slightly, because next week we don't have Tristan Tucker, because him and his wife are having a baby. So we've given them a week off, and we've got Russell from Centaur Biomechanics next week, and also we have got Levi Hunt joining us for a little catch up, also to do with mental health and how things are going for him. So a really important week, and then Tristan will come in the first week in March. So thank you so much for joining us. Take care. Be kind to each other, stay safe, lots of love, and bye from all of us.